Before we close this module out, I just wanted to touch on, kind of come full circle and touch on how we might be able to use Python to manipulate things within the file system directly. And there are a number of built-in libraries to do this, including OS and shell utils. And so those give us kind of a handful of things that we can use. So for example, we could find out our current working directory. Now it would be nice if it was just pwd, but it's actually get cwd current working directory, and I think that takes just nothing. There we go. And so I'm on again a Windows system, so it gives me the Windows backslashes here and tells me that I'm on the C drive and users Alex. And I can also use this to here, we'll just go back up here and do a quick listing of the directory lister, and this just assumes a listing of my current directory. So I've got a bunch of things in here. There's a way I could pull this out and test each one of these to see whether they're a folder or an individual file. I can tell, for example, that secrets.txt is a file. There's a way to copy in OS as well, but we'll use the version that's in shell util. Oops. And this is just like a CP command at the shell. We can just put in the names of what it is exactly that we want to copy, which would be something like, I think we decided this was secrets. And we'll copy it to lies. Now I won't actually say anything about that at the moment, but then we can again do OS, oops, list dir. And if we look through here, this is in, there we go. So it's kind of copied that text file into lies. So why would you want to do this on a one-by-one basis like this? It doesn't make a lot of sense, but there's a function called walk that will let you go through the entire directory structure. And maybe you could look for whole directories where you haven't touched anything in the last 4 months, for example, and it would check the date for when it was last opened. And if you hadn't opened any of those files in the last month, maybe it would just zip it, right? You can do a zip command through here. So maybe you would just zip up that file and either leave it there, just taking up a little less space, or move it off to a backup drive. So maybe you could kind of do something that did some kind of processing, or you could, using this in combination with other tools, you could kind of download stuff from the web, put it somewhere in a directory, and do the same kind of thing. Move it or compress it or look for duplicates and compress those over time. So you can do all of those things in shell scripts, of course, but you could also kind of do anything you can do in a shell script, I think it's fair to say, you could do within Python itself. The question then is, if this is something you want to do every night at midnight, how do you get that done? I suppose one thing you could do is have a while loop that sits there and is just while true, goes forever, but sleeps for 3,600 seconds, 36,000 seconds. I have to do the math, but I don't have it offhand. That's not right. But sleeps for 24 hours and then goes again. But generally speaking, it's kind of bad practice to have it just sitting there sleeping and burning up cycles doing that. Not many cycles, but it's a waste of the space, and it makes the operating system keep track of files that you otherwise wouldn't need to. So what you usually want to do is use a scheduler of one type or another. The general way to do that in Linux type systems is using cron. Cron is a daemon that runs and checks and kind of goes through a schedule, a calendar of things that you want it to do on a given schedule. And so you can edit those by doing cron tab E on any oops, that's really big, on any Linux type system, and it will give you a file here where you can insert a new cron tab, a new request for something. And the general format of this is actually described in this case in this empty cron tab file, but I can just tell you just as easily. Let's say that we want it to do something that happens, and the star will mean every second of every hour of every day of every month, including every weekday. So something like that. So I think that gets us right. Oh, we have it right here. Minute, minute, hour, day of month, month, and day of week. So in this case, I'm saying I want it to happen every single minute. And then I'd put down what I want it to do. So I could have it go Python 3. This is on a different file structure, but I could have it go to, if you'll recall, I have something in home, halave, hello pi. And actually we could have that, put that to, and we may not have touched on this. This is to load stuff into a file, and this is to append to that file. We could just have it, I can spell. We could just have it put that into a new line of hello into hello.txt every single minute forever, right? But we could do it a little less frequently. We could say that we wanted to do it at, for example, every 30th minute, right? So this would do it at 1:30, 2:30, 3:30, 4:30. So every hour of every day of every week of it would do it at something 30, right? Or we could have it do it only at 3:30 in the morning, right? So this is at the hour of 3. I think did I delete that correctly? So minutes are 30, hour is 3, but do it every day, every month, this is 3 in the morning, right? 24-hour clock. Every day, every day of the year, basically, at 3:30 in the morning, you wanted to put a hello in there. Or, again, we could move it out a little bit further and say every Sunday. That can be a 0. I can actually type, I think I can type sun in there as well, but generally I would do 0 for Sundays. So this means every 3:30 each week, 3:30 in the morning on Sunday, it will execute this particular program. Okay. Now if I just go ahead and exit out of here and save this, it will have created that new cron tab. So that's actually pretty straightforward. And probably at this point you're saying, but what if I'm not running Linux or Unix or some kind of POSIX system? So what does that look like? Well, it depends. The answer to that is it depends. On the Mac, I will link to a tutorial on how to use launch, the daemon for that kind of has taken over cron tab or cron in for OS X. It's a slightly more complicated. There's, I believe, an XML file that you have to edit to make it work. So it's possible. It's just a little trickier, to be honest. And apparently people have tried to make it easier, but it's still just a little trickier. It has a slight advantage in that this is designed for a Unix system that's up all of the time, right? So if you're working on a server, you're probably going to be working with cron. But if you're on your MacBook Pro, the top happens to be closed and nothing's happening. When that time comes by, what happens when you then open up the lid? And one of the nice things about Launched is that it will, as it fires back up, it will say, I've just booted, should I do something new? There's some ways to kind of make that happen in Linux as well, by kind of looking for a boot and having things happen on boot and checking to see if they happened, but it gets much more complicated. So that's one of the ways that Launched kind of improves on that. On a Windows system, you have something called Task Scheduler. Just go to the search and search for Task Scheduler, and I can just add in a basic task and tell them what I want it to do. This is with a trigger, an action, and a finish, but I can have it do it at any particular time as well. So I can set it up for a time that say trigger, new, and we can set it up with a time trigger where it says, one time or daily at a particular time. So it's the same thing. You just have kind of a graphical interface to do it. As you can see here, a bunch of programs have done this for me, and that'll be true on any system, right? That this is, so that'll be true on any system. And so these are things like, NVIDIA trying to update its driver, or my whatever, my Android emulator trying to update, Adobe trying to update. So basically it's a set of things trying to do run updaters. But those I never set up. They kind of set themselves up. I guess that opens up the question of, can you get your Python program to, can I set up a Python program that will add in cron tabs? There actually is a module. You'll have to install it because it's probably not installed as part of the standard Anaconda or any of the standard installs, but it's very easy to install, right? We know how to do that. We don't know how to do that necessarily. We've done pip install when we're using Google Colab, and you probably can do that on your installed system on any kind of Linux system. If you're using Anaconda, then you would use their package manager Conda, and so you would do a Conda install to install cron tab. But there is a package there that will allow you to create new cron tabs or delete them so that you can set up scheduling from inside Python itself. So a lot of this is kind of, where do you prefer to do things? There's very little you cannot do from inside of Python is kind of the takeaway from this. It's just sometimes it's easier to do things from the shell. So we have a bunch of tools over the module. None of these are kind of building stuff. A lot of them, as I said, are kind of support things, right? Ways that you can navigate around these tools and make them work better for you. So as we move more deeply into the kind of building ways of scraping and cleaning data, I just want to make sure you have a lot of different brushes, a lot of different kinds of tools that you can apply to that. And that means being able to get around your get around your systems a little more easily. And hopefully you have gotten part of the way there. All right, thanks.